all that I have. Somebody else, the one I'm waiting for.
Okay, I want to welcome to another episode of Halftime Chat, and my guest today is from the R&B group Changing Faces, who were big in the 90s, and I've got Cassandra Lucas today, and I'm going to find out her unplugged, unsung life story. How you doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. Nice to. How do you pronounce your name? I just want to make sure I say it right. Nnamdi?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. I wanted to try it first and then ask, but yes, great. I got it right. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. It's about 10 o'clock at night here in the UK.
Oh, so it's time to head to bed. Oh my gosh, after you finish with me.
Yeah, no, but it's been it's exciting because one of the things about the show since Pastor Mike started, a lot of fans have been like really trying to go back to the 90s and really understand the groups that really blessed us with such classic tracks and stuff. And we've been doing interviews
Mhm.
from Blackstreet to Guy to As Yet and everything, and people are like hearing the
Nice.
stories, but more so how you got into music, because
Yes,
we saw
yes.
you in the group, but we never knew your backstory. Where did you start singing
Yeah.
and stuff? So
Well,
yeah, it'd be great
so
to find out, yeah, where you're from
yes,
as well,
yes,
because we have an
yes,
international audience.
yes. Okay, so we can take it all the way back.
All the way back, yeah.
Yes, so all the way back. So the start of singing, I would have to say, would probably be in my living room. I was born in Manhattan, in New York,
Okay,
in
wow.
Harlem.
Okay.
Then I lived as a young girl in the Bronx for maybe till early elementary and then back to Manhattan. So since it's confusing and it was Sharice and she was from the Bronx and I was from Manhattan, I had like a Bronx Manhattan story. I always just said, I'm from Manhattan, she's from the Bronx, because most of my years growing up was spent in Harlem, in East Harlem, New York.
Okay.
But I would probably say when I felt like when I loved music was from when I was smaller, from Soul Train, just watching it with my dad, and every Saturday just waiting for Soul Train to come on, grabbing that hairbrush, standing, those, I'm aging myself right now, but those old stereo record players that look like furniture.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he was 6'5". So
Wow.
as a little girl, I would stand on that with my microphone so that we could be a duo. And I
Wow.
would have not a microphone, a hairbrush was my microphone.
Yeah,
So the
yeah.
hair and emulate the people that I watched on Soul Train.
Wow.
So at that, and my dad growing up, they never did anything professionally, but he's from Raleigh, North Carolina, the outskirts of Raleigh, North Carolina. And him and his brothers had like a little group. So I got the love for music, by way of my dad. Even though he was an electrician and he was in the service and all that stuff, he was a veteran, but he never pursued his career. Maybe it came through me.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
but then at those early days, I mean, I guess it's
Mhm.
probably when you get into high school stuff, who are you listening to?
Wow, good question. So in high school, what am I listening to? It's weird because my music taste definitely comes from my home. So all of the Marvin Gaye is just like played everywhere. Oh my gosh. So he's like the hero in our house. So I have to start from there because that's when you people, you don't realize it, but by default, you develop your music palette, from what
Yeah.
you hear. So when you hear Marvin Gaye and you hear Donny Hathaway and you hear, Stevie Wonder and
Yeah.
just constantly playing, that becomes a part of your fiber. And I always tell people, even young kids that are coming up, like, yes, you're a singer and you do this and you do it, but you have to also kind of do not your history, but yeah, just sit a while, just go get some old school stuff, just listen, just
Yeah.
because what you can do you can do, but you don't know what that will bring out of you. You know what I'm saying? So that to me, so I'm like me musically, I always say I'm just like a mixture of all that I heard, because I heard so much. And sometimes in the industry, what happens is when you have that like big hit, they want you to stay there. When inside of you, it's so many other layers to who you are musically. But because that hit was that smooth song that, you know, that only did this, that they want to hear it over and over again. So that, you know, that could be a downfall, because it doesn't allow you to express yourself in, you know, in all ways that you have inside of you. So a little bit of gospel, you know, all of those things. I was in gospel choir in high school. You know, we went and sang for the elderly and the sick, you know, during Christmas time, and, you know, so all facets of music. And even in high school, I learned classical. So, you know, all in different languages, you know, so you have a lot in you that's in your music palette. Yeah.
And a lot of the stories we have by R&B singers is that, you know, it was almost like the church becomes almost like the training school for our superstars. But when you're in the environment like that, singing in choir, do you think, oh, I could be like Whitney Houston and because they started in the church and stuff, or are you just enjoying the singing?
Well, it's hard to like not enjoy the singing. And let me tell you what it is. I remember the first time in choir. Well, I went to LaGuardia High School of Performing Arts. That's where Sharice and I met before Changing Faces. That was the quote unquote fame school in New York. So that's where
was it based on that?
Based off of that school, right?
Wow.
So that's the school. So we have a lot of alumni from like Tashina Arnold, Jennifer Aniston. I mean, I can go Nicki Minaj. I can go on and on. It's so many of us that went there. It was just housed so many wonderful people. But I would say when you're in a gospel choir there, it's so much more intimidating to even think you're Whitney Houston or because it's so many great voices, you know, it's so many powerhouses. I mean, so you're just inspired by, you know, the person next to you. When you hear them sing, it just makes you want to sing more. And so it was a great experience. And I remember one day saying, you know, there was an audition coming up for a lead, and I was going to audition for it, but I knew like it's 500 other people in here that, you know, can outsing me, to be honest, you know, in terms of gospel. You know, usually you find big voices and, you know, and my voice is a little more mellow and, you know, so I went to the bathroom, my knees were kind of knocking. I spoke to a couple of people, and then I went out there and I tried out for it, and I got it. And I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it, because I was like, it's so much talent in one room. It's just a blessing to be there, because what it does, it just pushes you harder, you know, to be better. And that's what I loved about that school, whether it was an actor you had a friend with, a dancer, just the dedication that they had to what they were doing always inspired you to keep going. Yeah.
Now, the fact that you actually went to that kind of environment, was it a conscious decision by yourself and your family that, you know, you've got a talent here and we need to put you need to go to a place where you can nurture it? So, because that tells me that there was a roadmap to be able to enroll in that kind of environment.
Well, what's funny is, so when I gave you my backstory, I kind of skipped over it. So I was born in Manhattan, right? And then I lived in the Bronx as a young girl, and that's where I would do the whole Soul Train, standing on a, you know, thing with my dad. And when we moved back to Manhattan, it was for like work reasons. You know, my dad worked in Manhattan, and so did my mom. And we were getting at that age, like the 7, 8, 9, where, you know, I'm the oldest. So we can kind of be like latchkey kids, you know, in the city, you know, let yourself in and let yourself out. So my mom was looking for places for us to live that would allow us to be close to the school, where we wouldn't have to, you know, try, you know, how you have to work it out as a parent. You know? So work out the, you know, proximity to the school or whatever. So with that being said, that's how I know God has his plans and he works it out the way it's supposed to be. She had a choice of like 3 or 4 different locations, but she happened to pick the one location in East Harlem. And that location housed a middle school or junior high school. I don't know what you guys call it there, but a middle school that was called East Harlem Performing Arts School. And that's where I end up going to that school. And that's where I met a teacher by the name of Kurt Forsett. He was the music teacher. And I would just sing and talent shows and stuff, but it wasn't anything that and he was like, I hear something in you. You have a tone like nobody else, and you really should nurture that. And I'm like, really? I said I wanted to take some piano classes and I like acting, but he's like, no, you should nurture that. So he worked with me and he actually helped me prepare for my audition. He says, you're going to audition for that fame school. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're going to audition. And he helped me prepare for that audition. And I have to reach out to him to find out what song it was, but I sang it in another language, in German, I believe it was. Wow. And it was classical. And I mean, I've always done it, I've always sang, and like I told you, in choir and in church and stuff like that. But I don't know if it wasn't until that point that I was like, maybe I have something here. And I do believe that, like, a lot of times people's teachers and people outside of even your family, they see things in you, that help inspire kids, to be. So I don't think I would have ever auditioned for that school had it not been for my teacher, Mr. Forsett. Isn't that crazy?
But what about your folks when he brought that up? Did they say
no?
Great, or were they like,
Yes.
no, we wanted to be a doctor, a lawyer?
No. They, now when you think about it, I'm blessed to have parents that didn't put any expectations on their kids. I'm the eldest, and I have a brother and a sister that are twins, a boy and a girl, okay. And they didn't put any expectations. And I grew up in a household that was filled with music. And I really believe in my heart if that's something my dad would have been able to do, he would have done it. Yeah. Had he not had a family that he had to go out and support, or whether if it was really on his radar for him to do it, he would have done it. Yeah. So I think go ahead, Yeah.
So you get into the school. Is when you get into the school and you're seeing all had Fame come out by then?
Oh,
Debbie
yeah.
Allen.
Yes.
Leroy.
So
is it Leroy and everything?
Yes, Leroy. Absolutely.
Yes. We all
right. Debbie Allen and Leroy. Isn't it great? Yes. And what's the other lady? The pretty girl? Oh gosh, I forget her name. I'll come back to it. Yeah.
But I mean, the fact that you're going to that school, I mean, I was in England watching that, and I thought, goodness, if I could dance and sing, I would want to be there. I think it was our version of, I've forgotten the name of the song, that they had the High School Musical.
Yes.
That was on TV a couple of years ago.
The High School Musical. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My brain is all over the place.
Yeah,
too.
no, sorry. But yeah, it was really. I mean, for a certain age, that was the show. Now you've gone into there. Does that automatically tell you that I'm going to be either on Broadway or I'm going to be on the charts? What do you think that when you get admitted?
I think I thought more about maybe more Broadway, because even coming out of my junior high school, we did plays, we did Guys and Dolls, The Wiz, so we had to put on final plays at the end of the year. And so that was just intriguing, because you did a little dance, you did a little singing, and right where the school, well, when I first went, it was in Harlem, but they ultimately made a bigger school downtown, right across from Lincoln Center. So now you have all the, Lincoln Center is where all the greats go. So when I first went there, I was thinking maybe I would say more Broadway. I didn't really know what line of, music, but I was thinking more Broadway. Yeah.
Then what changed when you were in there? The sort of the direction as to that you decided to take? Do they give you a path, or do they just make you sort of a jack of all trades when you go through?
Well, no. the thing about that school is you have art majors, you have musicians, you have singers, you have dancers, and you have actual artists that draw. And so those are, and actors and actresses. So you're kind of I think each floor, each level had their own thing. So you're kind of in your music section and there, but you come together in your base classes, like your math and science, and that's how you're able to gel and meet with other people from other likes of the entertainment industry. Yeah, so you're not, they don't put you on a path, but they do teach you jazz, they teach you gospel, they teach you classical. They also teach you, they start the process of you learning how to read music, theory. So just to give you all aspects of your major.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So so you're going through the school. When do you start to get a sense of what you might want to do as you're getting towards when you're coming out of school?
So when you're in that school, there's always an audition happening. There's always somebody always knows something, or somebody, oh, this person's looking for background singers, or this and that. Da, da, da. So yeah, when you're in a school like that, they're constantly on weekends after school. People are going on auditions. They're doing, there are some people, they're in high school, but they're already in the industry. They're already on Broadway. You understand what I mean? They're already, so they're just in school because we have to, we're high school kids, but there's always an audition. So Sharice and I met because I think she knew of a person that was trying to put a group together. We met prior to that, but then she came and said, come on, we're going to try to, I have somebody, maybe we can audition to put a group together. And that didn't pan out. So then we clicked, and from there we like auditioned for, oh gosh, what was the show that everybody was on, the big show with what's his name? The one, the McMillan man. Is that his last name?
Not Stars in Your Eyes.
Not America's Got Talent, but it was like America's Got Talent back then.
Yeah, not Stars in Your Eyes.
You know what I'm talking about, because I think Britney Spears was on there, Beyonce and Destiny's Child. Yeah, so we auditioned for shows like that. And then I think Sharice had a friend that knew that Sybil was auditioning.
Wow.
Sybil was auditioning for background singers. So then we went together, since we started from an initial group that we were trying to put together of 3 people. And then that didn't work out, and it was just us 2. And then we went to audition, and that's really when it clicked for me. I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, having the opportunity to tour with Sybil and go to places like the Philippines and see stadiums filled up with people. And then even though you do it on a smaller scale, like in school or whatever, and it's amongst your peers, it's not really, like the outside world, but to get on such a major stage like that and to see the feedback, like what you give and what you get from the crowd, like how instant that is. I think that's for me when I caught the bug. I think I have to do this for a lifetime. Because even in school, remember, I was already doing it in junior high school. So it wasn't like something where, I need to do this as a profession. I could have actually, done it. I wouldn't say on the weekends, but I could do it as well as hustle and do other things.
Yeah.
But I think it was that moment when we were granted the opportunity, and I always say thank you to Sybil, because, we were granted the opportunity to tour with her and get to see that instant, gratification for what you give and what you get, was when we were like, we should try to do this. And then that's when we sought out to be a duo, and we're gonna, make a demo, and the rest from there.
Okay, yeah. So before we get to that, now in my head, I'm thinking you're in high school, and you've got Sybil, who's a big star, going around the world.
Yes.
Would you get a passport? Did you get your parents to sign off on it? Did you get a manager to sign off how much we're getting paid? I mean, that seems like a...
So Sybil was toward our senior year. I think we may have been in going in first year of college. So they didn't have to sign off. So we were good.
Okay.
And they were excited for us. I mean, she's from the South Bronx. I'm from East Harlem. This was like, wow, like my dad is like, I'm living vicariously through you. You go and, and I was still in college. So I was just maneuvering, even while doing the demos and everything and Sharice was too in the beginning, but I was still in college, even while doing demos for us to get a deal and everything. We were both in school. So it was a lot, but it was just so much fun.
And so I can understand the stage part where you're singing and everyone's clapping and stuff, but then the mechanics of being on tour, who teaches you about making sure that you're not being cheated, making sure it's not a free workshop, you're actually getting paid, and hotel bills and stuff? How did you learn all that at that young age?
You really just go with the flow. I'm being honest with you. Like when we're with, you learn by watching, you learn by listening, you learn by, looking, like just because it's the business part of it. Like I love to sing. I love music. I don't care what kind of music it is. I even see myself, if I'm like in an office space and they're playing music, I'm entertained. Everybody else might, still be, but as long as you have some music in there for me, you know what I'm saying? My toe is tapping or I'm doing something, like I love music, so that's the love of it. It's the business part that you're never taught. And that's the sticky part. And that's the part that, if you don't love it enough, it will just poof. It'll be away, because the business part is the ugly side of it. Unfortunately, everything that glitters is not always gold.
And that's what we've been learning. So I'm a fan of music and stuff, and we've been learning that through us listening to these Donnells on last week and stuff.
Oh,
We've been learning about that. Where goodness, we see you guys in videos, and we see your albums going platinum without realizing, until Left Eye told us that we're not making anything most of the time and stuff.
That's funny you had Donnell, because my husband and I, who's a producer, his Journey of a Gemini album, he produced, and I wrote and sang. I'm on there too. Special Girl. I'm doing backgrounds on his album.
That was great. And we spoke about how a lot of people loved that album, but unfortunately the industry had changed where he didn't get
and he was ahead of his time on that album. Like that album was incredible. Yeah.
I mean, lots of fans would I haven't mentioned that you're coming on because I would have been inundated with questions. So I wanted to, and I realized it's still, But going back, so how long did you guys tour with Cyril?
Oh gosh, I want to say a couple years. Probably 2.
Wow.
Probably 2. But it wasn't all at one time. It was in and out, because tours can be short. So she'll have a batch of shows here and batch of shows So I want to say maybe like 2 years, but while with Sybil, she had a manager at that time. And then he wanted to take on managing us as a duo. So he was like our first manager that was trying to, get us a deal. Cause I guess that's what we wanted to do after that point. And then we went from manager to manager. And then we ended up with Shanice Carter, who's a friend who actually attended the same school that we attended. Shanice Carter and Mark Pitts. Mark, he's a president of RCA now. And he was with Biggie.
Big Impact.
Yes. And they managed us when we got our deal. But Shanice Carter was the main instrumental person to get us the deal with Kenny Smooth of Spoil Rotten. And then Mark Pitts came on. And then from there, they were co-managers for us.
Okay, so when you guys were on tour, did you then start talking about we can do it ourselves as a group, just the two of us, or what was?
The one thing I tell people, and what I tell myself even now that I'm back to being in love with music, and and I just put an album out of my own, is to take in the moment, because you're going, there's going to be so many things that are blurry if you don't. And for me, I have a whole lot of blurry areas because I think when things were happening, they were just, so I can't even pinpoint to you. I can't even say, this is when it happened or that is when it just happened. And I think, but I know at that moment of touring for Sybil is when we knew that this is what we wanted to do. And that's when we acquired a manager and, and went from there. But I just fell in love with the stage at that point. I
Yeah.
did. Mm-hmm.
So 94 is when your first album came out, but then what year did you guys decide, okay, we want to be a group? And especially, I wanted to be interested to see which groups were out there that you were looking at and thinking, wow, these we want to be like this, or these.
Yeah, well, for duos, well, that was, so our story was a little different because we didn't really have a lot of duos to emulate because there's hardly any out there. It was Peaches and Herb, but you had guys and girls, but you didn't have um two girls. And at that time you had like In Vogue, and you had all the three girls groups. Even if you go back to Diana Ross and the
Yeah,
Supremes,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it was more
Jade
than two
and yeah,
women, Jade, and you had SWV. And I mean, even though we were all kind of at the same time, the only two girls but they weren't doing R&B prior to us was probably like Salt and Pepper. It wasn't anything, but they were hip hop, and they're the queens of hip hop, and it's like
yeah.
they're out, and it's a totally different genre. So we were given a lot of flack, and a lot of doors were closed because it was like two girls, and now when you think about it, it felt really sexist because it was like, it's not enough to look at.
Oh, is
And
that
blah,
the
blah,
question?
and it's like, yeah. So it was like, you need three or more, and any groups that are really successful, they have, three or more members and blah, blah, blah. And that's what we faced. We faced that a lot until finally we met. We were introduced to Kenny Smooth by way of Shanice Carter. And he was getting a label with Craig Kallman for Big Beat Records. And we had, we'd done our demo, and they didn't care that it was too. They loved the music, and they loved us, and the rest is history. So you got to knock on a couple doors.
Now,
Um,
as a fan back in those days, it was strange seeing two, because I know there was Terry and Monica.
oh yeah, we had Moke and Steph. I
Milk.
think they were on our label too. Yeah, Moke
So
and Steph.
there were a few duos, but it didn't. Yeah, they were right where it says that I think we were sort of, we got used to the bands being three or four, and
Yes.
before it used to be five. When No Dishy came out, so
Oh
that
yes,
yeah, by
yes,
the time the
yes.
'90s came, that was too much. We needed to be three or four, so I could see where we were used to that, and I guess, but. Did you guys just were you ever pressured to say maybe we need to get a third member just to make it easy for us, or did you say no, we're going to stick to just the two of us regardless?
Yeah, well, remember when we initially met, it was three girls trying to do a demo. So after we already tried the three thing, we were like, we're good. It'll work out. Like, we're good, and we gelled so well back then. So it was like, we're good, and we just kept at it. I mean, doors would close, and people would say what they say, and that's what I tell people too. Don't stop. If you believe in that, you keep going, because that's for you. And the energy between us showed, and that's why it worked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but that's a great lesson, because I guess a lot of us um, we'll start off doing something, and we're passionate about it, but we think it's not growing as quickly as that person over there who's following a particular formula, and you jump in that lane, and all of a sudden it's not what you're doing, and you can't be as good as them, and you're not true for yourself, and it falls apart. And it's good that you're
It
saying that,
shows
yeah, because I would have thought
what
you'd
you
be
just
pressured.
said. Yeah, what you just said. When you're not true to yourself or what it is that you want to do, it will show.
Hmm.
It will show, and it won't work. So you have. It may take you longer, So what? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's greater, it's sweeter. But just stick to what you know in your heart you want to do, because I think is real evident, and people can see phony and they could see, something that you're not enjoying.
Timeline wise, so from you're finishing with Sybil on tour, how long before you get you get your break?
Mm. I would say it took us about 4 years. So it was like the end of college, around like right after college or so. I would probably say 3. I'm going to include the years with Sybil in there because I'm trying to think. So within the 2 years, maybe 2 more years, 2 to 3 more, 2 years after that, 2 to 3 more years.
In the midst of that, are you getting a job? Are you just doing
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, I worked at the dermatologist's office. I worked for Dr. Novick. He was like a big dermatologist. I was a secretary. I also got Charisse a job there on the side.
Wow.
Yeah, we did our little part-time work. We did, and that allowed us, that afforded us the opportunity to go and do studio time and demos, and and get on the train at night, and we worked with Dinky Bingham from the Jamaica Boys. He actually helped us tremendously as well with, he was the first person that let us know there's a lot of beautiful women out there, whatever, but you guys need to write and, and hone in on your stuff. And we sat there with him in the basement, and we learned to write music. As long as, what do you want to talk about? And that's when you opened up your book and you started, because that's not something that you really did in high school, so you didn't do that for Sybil. You just sang. That's all we knew. We just knew to sing. But he brought that other element, which I'm so thankful for, where it's a business. You have things inside of you that you want to say. So you open up that book and you write it. And then for our very first album, we wrote maybe like 9 or 8 out of the 12 songs that were on it. And that was like not really normal for for you had big producers and writers that have to come and write, but we actually wrote for all of our albums. We wrote the majority of the songs on all of our albums. And people don't know that.
No, but what you're saying is really, really powerful. The fact that, because he could have taken advantage, and said, "I'm going to write all this stuff." Did he teach you about publishing and what that means? Because that's where the money really is. Because then was telling me about
that's where the money is, and that's basically what he was telling us. There's beautiful women everywhere. There's a whole bunch of singers everywhere, but publishing is where it's at, and that's how you guys are going to be in control of what you do. So that was such an instrumental lesson for us to learn, and that I have now. And the more you write, the more you learn, the better you get. And nobody can take that away. So I'm just thankful. I'm just grateful to God, because you're right. Could have taken advantage. You could have, I'll write everything. I'll do this. No, we were there as a group, and we all worked together. And, he produced, wrote, we did harmonies. He helped us with harmonies. Wow. We've always done that in school, but just to get someone else's perspective, he's great, So that was just amazing. So I have to thank God that we don't have those kind of stories where people were just vultures. Because there are a lot of people out there that have they have horrible stories.
You should watch my interview with Tabitha Dunk from Cut Close. I mean, so I'm glad, as I said, it was hard to be interviewing a lot of to hear these stuff. So I'm glad you brought a different side for us to see. Dinky Bingham, because I know he was. He used to be, was he not the drum tech for Guy? And he.
Yes. Oh, he's amazing. Just like a talent, just like unseen, So, and, just under the radar. So yes, he's amazing.
So it's the work that you get, those things you wrote and what he helped you produce is what you took to get your deal?
Yes, absolutely. Is what we took to get the deal. That's basically it. Yep. He was part of our demo team.
And then, so he's taught you about the publishing. You get that sorted out. Do you get the insights about what points are, how much, and all that stuff?
Now, No, we didn't get that far, but then we had a lesson, but that was like a short lesson with our attorneys at that point, because it was like, okay, here's the circle. Here's the circle, and you break the circle up, and this part is publishing, and this part, yeah. So it was more like with your attorneys before you signed, and your first deal, like most artists will tell you that you've probably already interviewed, is your worst deal.
Yeah,
It's your worst deal. You're excited. You're young. You're like, oh, I got a record deal. Oh, blah, blah, blah. It's just, it is what it is. You're going to be taken in some form or fashion. I mean, am I right or wrong?
We've heard the stories, but I'm happy that you said at least you had your publishing sorted out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we did. We were good on that. I don't, we probably could have gotten more or whatever. And
Everyone
I'm
would,
sure I would have loved to have more.
Yeah.
And looking back now, I'm grateful that you own your own publishing. Nobody's getting nothing from anything that you do. So I guess those are the bumps and bruises of learning in this industry, because I'm not, and I know that I'm not the only one, so.
Unfortunately, our Black artists have really suffered.
Oh, that's a whole nother topic. Yeah.
Yes. The name though, who came up with the name?
Oh my gosh. So people won't believe it. So we had Face to Face. We had the single pressed, ready to go. I think the artwork was the last thing that needed to go. The single release date, and the single would have been Stroke You Up. Single release date, everything. I thought we did a name check, but some way or another, like a couple days prior to artwork, to everything being pressed with the name on it, lawyer calls and says Face to Face is taken.
Wow.
We did all of this stuff with Face to Face, and so we have to come up with a name. We only had like 2 days left for everything to stay on schedule, because back then when you're in a part of a big record label, you got branded, you have this person, you have that. If you're not on schedule, you're going to be pushed to the end. So we put names in a hat.
Wow.
We had attorneys at the round table, people from the record label, ourselves, our managers. We just put names in a hat, and whichever name we picked up was the name it was going to be. And the name that came out was Changing Faces. And the reason being was, at that point, we knew what we had. We had an album. It's ultimately going to be about the music, because at the end of the day, if you don't have good music, your name could be Boo Boo the Fool, right? Boo Boo the Fool. Nobody would really care.
Yeah.
And I think about even like Lady Gaga or whatever, like she's just great. It doesn't matter. We'll call you whatever it is you want to be called. But if her music wasn't great, right, the music is the thing that's going to lead you there. And we knew what we had. So, we were first so sad. Oh my God, oh the name, I think a rock group had the name. And I feel like they were just lamping for us to put it out so that they could come, come swoop down. So, but thank God we found out like a couple days before. But the name it's just a name.
Yeah.
It's just a name. And at the end of the day, let the music speak for itself.
Now, because you guys wrote about most of the tracks on your debut album, whose idea was it to get the hottest star at the time to come and write the first single? I mean,
right. So how that came about was when we got the deal with Spoil Rotten Big Beat Records, we were now looking to put the project together. And it was like, they were like, write a wish list of people you want to work with. He was on the wish list. So at that time, I think it was just leaving public announcement. I think it was just leaving, right? So it was getting ready to, or just starting his solo career. Yeah. And he was on our wish list of producers to work with, along with like Babyface and stuff who we never got to work with. Would love to. But he was on our wish list, and they were like, well, you guys have a pretty hard wish list. We like, just send our demo. At that point, we had the demo. Just send the demo. Go with God. If he answers, he answers. If he doesn't, then we'll just keep going. And guess what? He answered. Like
So who
all he
else
can
did you?
say is no.
Who else did you? So you had Babyface. Who
Yeah, I
else
know it
did
was
you have?
Babyface. I know it was R. Kelly, Babyface. Who else? Oh my gosh. Oh, was it Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis? I think
Wow.
we had we were going for it. We were just, I think it was Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis because Janet Jackson, come on, she
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
everything,
But
you know?
yeah, and they're both Boys to
Yeah,
Men and stuff. Yeah.
yes, yeah. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. We had a good little list there. But we were like, just send it and then let's go. And
So
that's what happened. I have
apart from
hair in my
Stroke You
face.
Up, he did Fooling Around as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
The thing about it too is that most the formula back then used to be come up with a up tempo stuff, then you kind of slow it down, and then you guys come up with two slow stuff, and it was like, wow, you hear the first one, then you get the second one, and it took off. But when he came to, what happens? Does he write the song and says you guys sing,
Yeah.
or
So yeah, kind of because we were like, I think he was just getting started. So everything was getting ready to take off for him then. And we were both like time challenged. Well, really he was. We were kind of like on his schedule, right? At that point, it's the truth. It was, yeah, he had already heard our voices from the demo. So
yeah,
I guess that inspired the songs. And we were like, I think it may have been a couple songs, maybe a couple more, but we ended up with Fooling Around and Stroke You Up. And yeah, and actually Stroke You Up was actually pretty funny because the demo was sent over by R. Kelly singing, I've been feeling kind of strange.
wow. You know, yeah. I mean, we take away what's happening now, but anytime if I do a poll today to say, here are 5 artists in the '90s, he gets at least half of the votes, and over
Yeah.
3,000 people vote, and so
Mhm.
there's a lot of us who separate the personal things and recognize the creative talents
Mhm.
that he has, and so we want to focus on the sort of the talent and the
Mhm.
music and
Yeah,
stuff.
because the other stuff I have no clue about. All
No,
I
no,
know
no.
is
Yeah, it is.
Mhm.
It's the focusing
Mhm.
on the music, and I think for
Mhm.
us, it felt like he could just, it looked like he had a gift, like a baby face or Kenny Green, who could just write
Oh,
for anybody, and
yes.
but to make a song like Stroke You Up and he's singing
Mhm.
in the background, in the '90s it was very competitive. It was great
Yes.
people coming out from Jade and SWV and Vogue, and men, female.
Everybody.
But to
Yes.
break through that, did you hear his track and think, oh, this is going to be a hit, or what was your thoughts?
Yeah. So it was, well, when I heard it, yeah, we knew it was going to be a hit because also it was like, it was hard to do. Well, here's the thing. I'm with you on here you come with this slow stuff. And I think I want to, when was Stroke You Up? Was it Get Out or Stroke You? Because it was, we had two slow singles. It may have been, I don't know if it was Get Out or Stroke You Up, but one came like in the middle of the summer. And I'm like, it's the summertime. People want to dance. Like, what are we going to do? But the inspiration, and I think we were both on the charts, I think, came from like a Boys to Men. Like Boys to Men just come out with slow
Yeah,
bangers,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't matter what's on their chart.
yeah,
Boys to Men is number one or two,
yeah,
So you had Jade with, Don't Walk Away, and this one, those were big hits, and SWV, When I'm So Into You, all that stuff. That's cool, and it was rhythmic, but I think that's the thing that set us aside from everything else, because it was, what it did was, that was our sound.
yeah, yeah,
Now when you
yeah.
hit it, that's your sound. And it's like, well, that's the difference. And that's what made me want to, go with that. Like, yes, I feel good about it, because it's
Yeah.
like, it's not like anything else that's out there.
No,
Yeah.
no. As I said, it's to come out in the '90s to actually have a lane. It was very impressive, and as I said, the song was amazing. Now, do you then look at what's the song about, or do you just because I wonder if you're because this is your first thing, your family gonna be listening to it and stuff.
Oh my gosh, that's what you thought about. Thought about my family. I thought about my grandmother, my church going grandmother every Sunday. Oh, like, yes, you did. But then I was like, listen, this is just, it's just play. This is music. And with Stroke You Up, the beginning part, I want to tell you, I think it took us hours to do that. We laughed so hard. The talking part, we laughed so hard. Like they couldn't even get to record it because every time you went to do the whisper, relax, you were just dying laughing. Like what? This is crazy. So it was all done in fun. But it was like, you have to play the part. Here's the part. Here's the song. It's a hit. You got to do it. And that was basically how the whole thing, but it was funny. It was a lot of fun.
And it takes off. It's going up in the charts, both the, not just the R&B charts, but also the, Billboard Top 100.
Right.
Does it surprise the label and everyone how quickly the single and the album is doing?
Yeah, I think they tried to play catch up. Because it was like, it kind of got away from them. I think they tried to play catch up, like, wow, because it just came out of nowhere. And that's what happens with like a hit. And that's why I say to even people that are out now, like, try to be in the moment, because it can get away from you. And even for us, I believe it got away from us because it was like happening so fast. Like,
wow.
I just quit my job at the dermatology office, and now you're saying what? I mean, they literally had to tell me to quit. They're like, Cassandra, I think it was like Kenny Smooth and Shanice were like, you have a record deal now. I'm that, East Harlem hustler. I know I need my little money over here. And it's like, no, you have a record deal and you're going to get an advance and you have to quit. And I'm like, nope, not until I see money. Not until, right. I need to see something, so it didn't hit me. It didn't hit me until it finally was like 5 heartbeats when either I called Sharice or she called me, the song is on the radio, and it was because it was a slow jam.
Yeah.
It was on the
build. Yeah.
No, but it was on the midnight, the overnight,
Oh yeah.
So we were woke up out of our sleep screaming like crazies because that was the first time you heard it, like 1, 2 in the morning.
Okay.
And it was, because it was on the mellow,
Yeah.
That's where they first started to play it. And for us New Yorkers, in terms of music, you get any new music, it seems like New York plays it last.
I would have thought New York was, because I lived in LA. I thought that would be New York, LA. They get it first, and
you don't know it until you start to travel. You're like, New York, has this kind of bouginess about it, I guess, with the radio stations where it's like, when we play it, you've made it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
We were like hot in the South and in the Midwest. And Chicago,
I was in Milwaukee, going to college. And so, yes.
Yes. And our first show was like in Lexington, Kentucky. It was great. Like give all props to the Midwest and to the South. I mean, wherever your fans are, that's where they are.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Number 3 on the Billboard 100. I mean, so that's big to get, forget the R&B charts. They're talking Billboard, I can't remember, you're going against Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears and all that kind of stuff, and you're top 3. You said it happened too quickly. Were they quickly trying to get tours out? I mean, what was that like for you guys?
Yeah, that's that's what I'm saying. It's like all a blur because it just happened so fast, and then you're like, we're number 3. Are you kidding me? You can't even register it. You just can't even digest that because you don't. You just have to pinch yourself like, really? So I don't know. I mean, God just, made a way out of no way, but I couldn't even register it, to be honest with you. I really couldn't. I was grateful and excited and happy, but it was just hard to grasp it. Does that make sense? Yeah, it was hard. It was like, really?
Did you then start to talk? Because that's what got you
into
it.
Yeah. Well, and when it was when it was there, we were still promo touring because we had a lot of promo tour. Like back in the 90s, the
I don't know
majority.
why they waste money on those promo stuff, just
Yes.
giving
No,
away
we
free
had
music and free.
so many promo tours.
I
You would
just
not even
yeah.
guess.
Yeah, it was to me. I worked briefly with at Edmonds Entertainment, and they were
Oh, you
going,
did?
and yeah, but
Yeah.
I couldn't understand. And I studied business, and I'm thinking all this wasted money on promo stuff. Why you're
See.
just giving out free CDs to people, the whole album and stuff? But so you're going on on your tours and stuff.
Hmm.
Then they say, do you get involved in who's the next single? Because I know "Fooling Around" was another big hit, but do
Hmm.
they speak to you guys, or the label just does
Yeah.
it themselves, or what?
No, no, no. They speak to you and I guess since it was like a great combination with us and R. Kelly, it was like, well, let's go with this. And you guys, and we really were a major part of the songs that were on our album. So it wasn't like you can pick something and we'll be like, oh, absolutely not. We liked or loved everything that we did. So yeah, we were like, well, hey, let's do Fooling Around.
Yeah, well, he's already given us his magic touch with the first
Yeah,
single. Let's see what
yeah.
happens with this. And I think that really took the album itself, really,
Over.
really took it over.
Mm-hmm.
Did you enjoy the touring parts of it then? Because this is different when you're being a background singer for a star. Now you're the headliners and the
Hmm.
main star. What was that like?
Yeah, then it was fun. It was new. It was fresh. You're touring the world. Yeah, we had a ball. Then it was, you're still oblivious to the music side of it. So it's fun. You're oblivious to the fact that you're not making a whole lot of money. You know what I'm saying? It's just a whole bunch of fun. So yes, then that first album, absolutely. Yeah. But as things progress, then your focus starts to get a little clearer.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
you'd hope that your managers. And
Mhm.
I was talking to Joe Little from the Rude Boys,
Oh,
and
okay.
I was doing an interview, and I said it's what's amazing is that if you were an NBA player or football player, you've got a talent, and your agent gets you a deal with the club, and you get a big salary, big advance, and they take care of everything. If you're a recording artist, everyone comes to see how can we sap your energy, and knowing that, well, if we do all that, you may not be great at what you're doing. I- how soon did you realize that it isn't? There's two sides to this. There's the singing part,
Well,
and
let's go back because you
okay,
hit a couple of things, okay? And the one thing I say the same thing that you say is when you're when you're a sports person or whatever. Now, to me, it's different when you are given a whole bunch of money. And if you choose to go and buy 80 houses and cars, and that's on you, right? That's on you. It's
yeah,
sad because there are a lot of athletes who may not have money after getting those major big deals. But 90% of Black artists, because I can only speak for myself, you're not given nowhere near that kind of money, nowhere near that kind of a public. You're already in the negative starting. They don't even give you a head start. Like that's the only thing about I'm going to go from the Black music world that I take an issue with, because it's not even like after you're 3, 4, 5 albums in and you just want to, take a break or whatever you want to do, right?
yeah,
You're not offered any position on ESPN as a sportscaster. You're not offered any position coaching for that basketball team or for that college team. You have nothing. You're just left out there in the world, right? That's so not only do they suck the blood out of you, like you mentioned,
yeah,
which takes away the energy from what you're really, you have to go out there and perform every night. Where NBA players, they get the cool baths, they get the massages,
yeah,
whatever it is for them to perform at their best,
yeah, yeah,
they have it, correct?
yeah.
But as an artist, you don't have that protection. You know what I'm saying? There's nobody really there to protect you. You have to protect yourself. Because even monetarily, the only way you're really going to make money is to keep doing shows and to keep writing and and to keep publishing this. And to keep your record label interested. Now that's a whole nother thing, because if that last album wasn't number one like the album before,
Yeah.
their interest is going down, down,
Wow.
down. You see what I'm saying? So, and what's going down with the interest is the budget, right? That maybe you got a big budget for the last album, but well, we got to go by what you did last time.
Yeah.
What about that? You know, we got to go by how many records you sold the last time.
Hmm.
This is what artists face, you know, and that's why I go back to what I said before. You have to love it, because the business part of it
Wow.
will leave you really so you don't have that where you're given $50 million for a 5-year deal. You know, that's if artists had something like that, you know, you can make an investment, you could do that,
Yeah.
you know, you can live. So that
Yeah.
if you 5 albums down the road, if you're not number one, you know, you're okay though.
Yeah.
That's not what Black artists are afforded. I mean, not any that I know of. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, and as I said, as fans, all we saw was the videos and the songs, and we did not realize that there was behind the story stuff, behind the scenes stuff. But you're fortunate your first album went platinum,
Yes.
and then you come out with your second album, All Day, All Night, and off the back you have Get Out. That was another big hit. As I said, I can't remember if it came out in the summer and stuff, but
Yes, that was the summer. That was the start of
okay,
summer. Get Out was the start of summer, and I was like, "What in the holy hell? We going to be going again with this slow song in the start of summer?" And that one was bigger than Stroke You Up. Get Out.
but then for you guys, then did you go back to writing majority of All Day, All Night?
Yeah, we wrote again. Forgive me for not remembering how many songs are on there, but we wrote the majority. If it's 13, we wrote 9. If it's 15, we wrote 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you didn't get any pushback from the label, because normally what you sometimes get is like, oh, well, we want to get more control over this, so we're going to get our own people and stuff. But they were like, you know, let's not break a winning formula.
Well, yeah, we didn't get pushback, and I believe personally, because we were where we are now in the industry, we were signed to an independent label that was signed to a major. So I think that actually helped us, because you have somebody, you have Sport Rotten that is on your team. You know what I'm saying? That's okay. They're there to fight for you, kind of with that big label, you know, and they're there to also make sure all the deadlines are met. You know, you said we were coming out at this time and blah, blah, blah. So it's more than just you. So that whole independent element, actually helped out, especially like the first album, you know, like they could have just shelved us and said, okay, we'll put you out next time. But I think, you know, when you have that middle like person brokering everything, it kind of helps push things along.
So when Donnell says he was an Untouchables artist signed to the face.
Yep, the same thing.
And so now that you've said that, it makes sense, because they are the ones who said, if we don't get you guys out, we don't get paid. So we need you guys.
So you have more than one person that has a motive, right? You have more than just Changing Faces that has a motive, because and speaking of Untouchable, Kenny Smooth was a part of Untouchable with Eddie F or whatever. So he had his own label. That's who we were signed to. Isn't that weird? It's just a small world.
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
No, actually, Donnell, even when I interviewed Buddy Weeks from Intro. They talk so much about how Eddie was very honest, you know, got them signed to AFSCAP and all that stuff, so that they could get their own stuff, got them into all that stuff. So this is very rare to hear, you know, somebody really taking care of the artist for the long term.
That's that whole team, the Untouchable team. Everybody was pretty on point, you know, and honest. Yeah.
When the second album comes out and it does well and everything, what is life? How does that change you?
Wow. The second album was a little sticky for me. It was joy and pain at the same time, because right when Get Out was climbing up the charts, my dad passed.
Oh,
Suddenly. So it was in a 2 month period. So it was a little, joy, pain. So again, that's when promo tours started. And you were back on that promo, which like I'm with you now. Okay, we're second album in. You're already two, you had Fooling Around, Stroke You Up, this, that. I mean, you had Stroke You Up, Fooling Around. So we're back to a long, drawn out summer promo tour. And we couldn't even be mad because again, who does that? You're back out again with a slow song and it's
yeah.
like top of the charts. We were just like, wow. And I don't know if it was second album or first album, but I'll tell you a little funny story. It was one of the two albums when the single was going up. I have to go back and do my research about which one, but I don't know why I feel like it was Stroke You Up because Craig Coleman said he'd gotten a phone call and because we were like greatest gainer and beating out, as you go up the chart or whatever. And the phone call was from Prince saying,
Wow.
who is this Changing Faces? Because Prince had just put something out and we were coming in just like, so I guess he looked at the label and called to find out who and what is Changing Faces. Because he's like, they're just, you get the greatest gainer, the greatest radio plays, the greatest, so when all those things were coming in, people started like doing research, like who the hell are they?
Because you
And
came
I
out
was
from nowhere. Wow.
from nowhere, yeah.
Did you get to meet the great man?
Now, we met him, but by default, it had nothing to do with this. We were doing a studio session. Um, oh gosh, what's the studio on 8th Street? Jimi Hendrix studio. Mm, God, I'm sorry, but it's on 8th Street. It's on 8th Street in the Village. It's Popular Studio. If any musicians or artists are here, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. We're there and we're recording and we're in our studio. And the engineer from the next studio comes and says, we're having technical difficulties in our studio. Would you just mind? We're at the final stages where he just needed to do, the end of his mix, even if it's just for half an hour. Guess who was in that studio? Prince. He came. His studio broke down and they needed to use our studio. So we met him briefly, but I think I was probably so starstruck that I was just and he thanked us for allowing him to use the studio and interrupting our time. But yes.
Was he very? Does he? We always see him as this quiet, shy little guy, but
he was. He's not. He wasn't a man of many words. He was. Thank you guys so much, and it's like, well, you could have the studio. You're Prince. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
No,
so we're sitting there like, wow, we just Prince.
No autographs, no pictures, anything. Or you tried to play it cool?
we tried to play it cool because we were like, we're in the studio and it's like, we don't want to like bombard, which we should have taken advantage and got a picture because we let you use our studio at that time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh my
it's
goodness.
all good.
I wonder if he remembered that you were the Changing Faces that he called him.
That's what I said. Like afterwards, I said the same thing. I wonder if he remembered that he called Craig Coleman. I said the same thing. But he's Prince. He don't remember no little Changing Faces. But maybe if we would have just had the opportunity to mention it, remember when you called, But,
yeah, if he heard a song, he probably would have just related it and stuff.
He would have related it. Yes. Yep.
I mean, but then you get, as I said, you've got 2 platinum albums. I mean, you're really standing out because I think what was happening in the 90s. I mean, towards the middle part, some of the second albums for some of the other R&B groups weren't doing as well. But you guys were doing you guys were continuing to lay out the hits and doing tours. what was your relationship with the other bands, other groups that were out there about that
Oh,
time?
I always tell people like the 90s was so much fun. Like when you got on tour with Guy and and Teddy Riley and if when you get on a tour, it was like fun for you because you just want to go back to the dressing room. You kind of want to be the first one to go on. So you can go back to the dressing room, take the sweat off your face and watch. It was like such a great experience because you had so many great people on that tour that you loved. You
Yeah,
honestly loved them. Like I would say, even with the girl artists, like with all the girl groups, it was just like so many, but none the same,
yeah,
none the
yeah,
same,
yeah, yeah,
none the same.
yeah,
And you could go to a show that had SWV on the lineup, In Vogue on the lineup, Escape on the lineup.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I can keep going, Changing Faces,
yeah, yeah,
Jeanne, let's do that. Let's do Jeanne. Even if you had Changing Faces and Jeanne, you could close your eyes and you would know each and every group that was on that show. You would know the difference.
yeah, yeah,
So that's what I loved because you were able, every vibe was different. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? It was no one like the other.
yeah,
And that's what made that time fun. Even for guy groups, maybe there may have been a couple, because men, their voices, because sometimes the range is not as, but outside of that, you can close your eyes and kind of know who's on that stage singing. And that's what I
yeah,
loved about the 90s. Because they,
yeah.
everybody had their own thing and they were not trying to be who they weren't. They were true to who they are. And I think that's why we felt the music so much.
Yeah, no, true. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, even with the guy groups, I mean, Blackstreet was different from
Mm-hmm.
Jodeci.
Yes.
Jodeci were different from Boys to Men.
Yes.
Even though Drew Hill, you could say were like a Jodeci, but
Right, right.
they
Still,
were
they
still
still,
had a
yes.
different vibe and stuff.
Yes.
And I think the producers were really in their element, creating really good, memorable songs and things.
Yes. Yes.
But you didn't have any fallouts with any of the
Oh
SWVs
no.
or Janae
No.
or
It wasn't that kind of party. Never. Never did we have a fallout with anyway. I don't have that kind of news because we never had anything like that.
But
No.
so you have 94, your first album, then you
Mm-hmm.
go 97, so the good 3 years, and then 2000,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's when you come with Visit Me. Um, the Other Woman, was that another R. Kelly track?
No, that was Joe. Joe, the music.
Oh,
Yes, that was Joe.
okay. Because
That
he
was Joe. I
started,
love that song. That was Joe.
yeah.
Yes.
Wow. So
Joe wrote
how did that come
it.
about? Where, because Joe, I mean, Joe is
Mhm.
probably very quiet,
He's
but really one of our, really
yes,
consistent.
all
I had
time.
all, yeah,
Yes, yes, yeah. That was Joe. That was um yeah, because we love Joe, or like he's incredible in terms of his writing and producing. So we were like, we need Joe on the next album. And that's how that happened.
wow.
Yep.
At that time there wasn't, because if you had the formula with R. Kelly in the first two
Mm-hmm.
albums, there wasn't a sense of, oh, we need to probably get another Kelly track, or was he just too big and busy? It's like, oh, we have to forget and change it out. So
No, but he was on the album. But it wasn't no, yeah, we were just by that time you probably wanted to kind of switch it up a little. But it was still great. It was, yeah,
yeah,
that was Joe. People don't know that. And that's what's yeah.
no. As I said, I mean, Joe did a lot of stuff for Profile, because I interviewed
Yep.
LJ from
Mm-hmm.
Profile, and he was, but
Mm-hmm.
as I said, his albums were consistently fire.
On point.
Yeah, every album he
Mm-hmm.
had. But I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize I would. I'm sure people would have looked and see Joe Thomas, but I don't think we would have
Yes.
really thought. We would have thought R. Kelly actually did it.
Yes.
But
Yes.
wow,
That was Joe Thomas. Exactly. Yep.
and you still continued writing the majority of the songs with
Still
yourself.
then. Still then. Yep.
Uh,
Till the final album. Yeah.
So then here we have 2000. You do your third album. You're touring.
Hmm.
Music industry changes quite
Oh my
dramatically.
gosh.
I
Yes.
mean,
Yes.
because hip hop is becoming a lot more prominent, so the
Mhm.
radio is playing a lot more hip
More
hop.
hip hop.
Um,
And the music industry is now the chart is, instead of having a hip hop chart, it's hip hop R&B.
Yeah.
And then finally it's adult contemporary. So now R&B doesn't have its own chart anymore. It's hip hop R&B. So you see it gradually changing. First you had hip hop, now it's intertwined with hip hop. So that's making it smaller. Then it's okay, let's just take them all the way off and put them over here on adult contemporary. Which that stung because, now you're saying, now you're not only moving R&B artists, we deserve our own chart. Let's just keep it that way.
Yeah.
But we never deserved a chart to be combined with hip hop. Hip hop deserves its own chart, don't you think?
Yeah.
So my thing is, everybody deserves their own chart. But then to take the R&B chart and instead of just giving it back to R&B, you say adult contemporary. So now, what does that do?
Yeah, I mean, I always used to think of adult contemporary was, Dionne Warwick and Patti LaBelle, really, the legends, but that stuff that, you don't necessarily, you don't go out and buy because, an 18-year-old college kid won't they don't think they're an adult and stuff. So, yeah, and you don't really look at that chart.
Yeah, there you go. So now you're in a corner. Yeah. Now, as an R&B artist, you're put in a corner because your chart is adult contemporary, and you're nothing if you don't jump on a hip hop track with somebody and do a hook.
Yeah.
See, that was that phase. Yeah. That was that phase after 2003. It was, as an R&B artist, you had to jump on something and do a hook.
Yeah.
Because now hip hop is taking over.
Yeah,
so there's no real.
And the labels were merging, and there was no uniqueness. There was it was Sony BMG, it was Universal, and there was Warner, and it was like, okay, we're merging everyone else up and just removing that identity and stuff. Did you get support on that third album, or what was it like with the label?
That was the third album was our divorce, I would say, from the label. It was, I think it was at that point too where it was singles that we didn't want to be put out, and I don't really want to get into that, but it was more like, or the timing for what we wanted to be put out wasn't. So it was like you had a meeting about this, but then you go off and do that. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And I don't like to bring out the negative, because I think anything negative is a learning lesson, and it taught you so much that, it can be turned to a positive for you in the future. And that's when we just started. It was a disconnect, I should say. That's when we left Atlantic Records. But at that time, I would say this, we were signed directly to Atlantic Records. So now it's Changing Faces Atlantic Records. So we're no longer with Spoil Rotten.
What difference did that make? Because I think Intro said the same thing. They left up. They went direct to Atlantic as well. But what difference did that make?
Now you're just a number. Okay, you come out first quarter, your second quarter, your third quarter, you're assigned your A&R rep, and they oversee your project, and which we had a great A&R. We had Rich Christina. I wouldn't trade him in for the world, but it's still the bureaucracy. It's still Atlantic Records. So no matter, it's like, okay, you're due out in May, you're here, and it's just not that same connect, that intimacy like that, because now Atlantic is huge by now. You have, God rest the dead, you had Aaliyah, you had Brandy, you have all, you have Timberland and everybody over. So it's like a lot going on.
Yeah.
So you become like a little fish in a sea.
And they're competing against themselves, and they're not going to do that. And I think, are they not under Warner Brothers? Was that their parent company?
Yeah, they're Warner Brothers.
So Warner is still saying that we don't want to compete against it. And that's what happens when they brought all the labels together, it just meant that they just didn't have the opportunity to fight for one another. When everyone was
No.
separate, everyone was trying to fight for their own. But when they came under one roof,
That's it right there. When, yep, you're all merged in together and it's no clarity and it's no, and you feel like you said, you feel like you're fighting amongst people. We're all a label. I never understood why labels, if you have, I think it was LaFace that did that, that put everybody together, because LaFace was banging. They had everybody at that time. They had like
yeah,
Tony Braxton, TLC, you know, and
Usher, yeah,
if you Usher, you can put them all on a tour together. Like everybody could help each other, you know,
yeah,
instead of fighting against each other, or, you know, give this person more money than this person. You know, if you invested the time and energy in all your acts and put them out there together, to me, you know, one, even if one is, you know, selling more than the other, then the other is getting noticed, you know, like they're acquiring they're acquiring the attention of an
yeah,
audience that maybe didn't know about them. So to me, one could help the other, you know, and I
yeah,
just never understood that, because that's how it should be. You
yeah,
should do, if you're gonna do a promo tour to help all the acts
yeah. So
on your label.
so you guys in
Mhm,
Intro or Brandy
mhm.
didn't do a collaboration in anything?
No,
Yeah,
you see what
uh,
I'm saying?
yeah. I
No,
mean,
yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Mm-mm.
and that's what some of the independent labels were doing back
Mhm.
then, like Bad Boy or so. You know, No Limit. They were the face. Yeah, they would say, look, we've got a brand. We
You
want you to
see?
know about our artists and stuff.
Mhm.
And I
Like
think,
we would never know about Tony Braxton had she not been on Babyface,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
We would
When they did it,
never know about Snoop Dogg had he not been on Dr. Dre, right?
yeah,
So it was the introduction, and it's that gets you. It's like, oh my God, who is this?
yeah,
Like when I heard Tony Braxton, like, who is she,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Or
yeah,
when you saw Snoop Doggy Dogg, you know, you were like, what?
yeah,
He is. So it's who you're being introduced by. So that's what
yeah,
I'm trying to say. I may have been listening to Dr. Dre, but had it not been for him shining the light on Snoop Dogg, I probably, you know, you
yeah,
wouldn't know. And
yeah.
that's
That,
the thing.
yeah,
You use what you have,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah. It was less to work, but now,
Mhm.
but you guys came. I mean, it's not an easy thing to come up with three albums, being an R&B group,
Mhm.
because the way the industry changed. So that was an
Mhm.
accomplishment of itself.
Oh, thank you.
Um, yeah, you know,
Mhm.
when I interviewed Cut Close, they did the first album. They're working on the second, and they got dropped. They got shelved. I mean, so politics and stuff.
Mhm.
So to come out with three really in a really big tracks and get noticed after the third album and all the politics and everything, you sort of were you guys then touring and or did you start thinking,
Yeah.
well, we're going to go our independent route as Changing Faces, or the industry has changed, is there space for us?
Yeah.
What was it like for
Yeah,
you?
we felt it. We felt the industry kind of changing. And I think that uh and we felt that the support wasn't there, like it had been for the past two albums. So it was not as vibrant of a time, I should say,
Yeah,
as our past two albums, because it was just, like you said, the industry was changing, the support wasn't there. And you know what it does? It just takes the wind out of you. And that's
yeah,
when the business takes control. And that's when the business is like, this is not fun. You know, I don't do, you know, we might want to just take a break, you know, because you don't feel you're being appreciated,
yeah,
or, you know, you don't feel like you're being appreciated. And that's that at that point, that's when it was like, oh, you know, I think I may have mentioned maybe we need to take a break, and that's when we severed ties with Atlantic Records.
yeah. Now,
Mhm.
the one thing is that when you guys are a part of a group, do you guys live in where were you living? Where were you living? New York? Back still living in New York?
With New Jersey, and Sharice was upstate New York. Hmm.
Okay, so I
Hmm.
always wonder about groups. Do you have to stay
Hmm.
near each other because you have to go and talk? Or
Oh,
could you go live in Los
no.
Angeles and she's
Yeah,
out
we live,
in
yes,
Canada?
yeah. And then you can meet, and yeah, you can. There are groups that live all over the place, and then you meet at the destination. I mean, the promoter has to get you there from wherever you are. So
Okay.
yeah, you can live wherever. But we still lived in right neighboring states. I was New
Okay.
Jersey, she was New York. Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
so when you guys started, you're in
Mhm.
college, young and excited and stuff. I've heard stories about, not about you guys, but just how the business and actually the work can change things. Now I've seen the Five Heartbeats, I've seen the Temptations,
Yes,
and
yes.
it must be challenging, especially as a group, through the ups and downs and stuff. How did you guys maintain a good friendship throughout the ups and downs of releasing three
Yeah.
albums?
It goes through the ups and downs. It's hard to maintain. It goes through the ups and downs because the business gets in the way, and it's just on all avenues. And even from when you're in a group, if you I know you spoke to group members, you you can feel like you're getting taken advantage of from the label, and then you can also feel like other group members are not doing their part or whatever. So it's a lot. It's a lot. So it goes up and down. It's
But
like, mhm,
is there anything that do you guys, and I always wonder if you guys would write, like, when we start off, like, what, we'll always
mhm.
promise to always tell each other the truth and be supportive, so then you
Uh,
bring out that little list and say, remember what we wrote when we
I
were 5 years.
wish I wish we would have done that, but no, we never did that. That's a good thing to do. And I probably would tell any group I know, write down that so that you'll have something to go back to, and you can be responsible for, what you promised. And this way, yeah, no, we had nothing like that.
Wow. So you guys sort of, after the third album, you sort of we don't hear anything from you guys
Mm-hmm.
for a while. Then there's rumors about, oh, they're gonna you're bringing out a new single and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then we jump off to you bringing out your
Mm-hmm.
own solo stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A big question everyone has been writes in and says,
Mm-hmm.
oh, why did you guys break up, and are you guys coming back together? I mean, because it's like yourself,
Mm-hmm.
Total,
Mm-hmm.
um, because you were so much of a part of our memories for a lot of us who are of a
Mm-hmm.
certain age. We do miss that, and then but we when we don't see it together, we always wonder.
Mm-hmm. Well, you sometimes you come to a fork in the road, and especially even with, and then and let's take it back. When you're younger, a lot you agree on a lot of stuff, and as you get older and you find yourself, everybody has their own opinions and their own way of looking at things. So that's when that fork in the road comes. If you think back to even your friends when you were in elementary, or you might be able to count on one hand how many high school friends you have.
Yeah,
It's the same thing. You just end up in a working relationship with your high school friend. You're
yeah,
still growing, right? You're still
yeah,
growing. You're still, it's like with the relationship with your high school girlfriend. I mean, you can count on probably one hand how many people
yeah,
that are still. So it's just life. It's the growing pains of life. And I feel like they do too. Oh man, that was a nostalgic time, and
yeah,
it was
yeah,
the 90s and da, da, da. But everybody has to do what's good for them um at that, at whatever stage in their life they're at. And right now, um, we're just I'm just doing me, and she's doing her, and it's all good. Yeah.
So in 2013,
Hmm.
you come up with CRC Music.
Music, uh-huh.
Um, what was the idea between coming up with your own label and stuff?
Well, in between that time, I had been, I stepped away from the industry, and I'm like always into learning new things or whatever. I actually loved real estate, and I took my real estate class. I got my license. I
Wow.
started doing real estate or whatever, and as well as writing for other artists. So I was writing. I think I did something for Jody Watley, for Lisa Left Eye Lopez. I started writing with
Wow.
Donna. So I was starting to I just wanted to do different things,
Yeah.
like get outside of the Changing Faces thing and let your mind run free. And that's when I started writing. I had some artists that I was working with, and that's when I developed CRC Music. So that's, I had to do a company to kind of back up what I was doing. And then as I was writing for others, I caught the bug again.
Okay. Did
Yeah.
you feel as if you wanted to step away and just
Mhm.
go behind the scenes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's how I felt. Because that's what the business part does to you.
Yeah.
But I always said, even in high school, since I went to a performing arts junior high and I went to a performing arts high school. When I
Yeah.
went to college, I just went to the city CUNY University, Hunter College. I went to college and I got a degree in sociology. I said, while in college, I will not take a single music course. And I didn't. I took not not an iota of anything musical, um, just to see if my soul will still pull me towards it. That's what's
Okay.
going to let me know if that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And after college is right at the end of college is when Changing Faces developed. But it's the same thing I did to myself after Changing Faces. Split it up. I said, let me just step away, because if it pulls me back,
Yeah.
then sometimes you have to silence yourself. You have
Yeah.
to get out of your own head, and you have to just let it come to you.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
so,
what I did.
but you were developing your own artist, but
Hmm.
you then decided to release your own self
Hmm.
first.
Yes. No, no, no. Well, again, when you're dealing with artists, you know what I'm saying? Again,
Yeah. You're
it's
dealing with
it's
human
it's a
beings. Yeah.
hard job, right? So it allowed me to see things from the Atlantic Records perspective too, all that you put in. So you're on both sides.
Yeah.
And some of the artists, they were younger. So I'm like, you need to work that out to make sure this is really what you want to do. Because
Yeah.
we don't, time flies by in this business. And before
Yeah.
you know it, somebody else is out and doing what you said you wanted to do. And it's over. So yeah, while doing that and working through the kinks of that, I decided to do me.
And
Mhm.
how did you think it? I mean, I think the landscape of music changed quite considerably with streaming services, meaning that you
Mhm.
could, you didn't have to go to all the mom and pop shops to start promoting your
Mhm.
singles and stuff.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Did you start to see it as a good change and an easier way of getting your music out
Hmm.
there, or did it still seem harder?
I personally, when I'm asked this question, what's good about it is the good about it is you don't need a record label, you don't need a whole bunch of money. You just need to do good music, and you could, from the touch of your computer, upload, and it's there. What's bad about it, or I should say, not so good, is 500,000 other people doing the same thing. Right?
Yeah,
So, with that being said, it's like trying to find a diamond in the rough.
yeah,
And now it's just not America. It's international. It's
yeah,
all over. So it's a different animal from where I come from. The 90s were nothing like this.
yeah,
It's I'm trying to go through this whole new wave. But you gotta be in it you have to be a part of it to learn it too, because it's a
yeah,
whole it's more of a marketing world than it is a
yeah,
music
yeah,
world,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So now you have to learn that aspect. How do you market yourself, and what's going to set you aside, because there's so much good stuff out there. I
yeah.
wouldn't know. Like, I would have to sit and sift through Spotify, for something to come up on my playlist, or Apple Music. You have no idea what's out there. It's
Yeah,
just so much content.
yeah.
It really
It is
is.
hard. But then, just 2019,
Mhm.
you came out with a full album.
Yes. Uh-huh.
What were you looking to say? Okay, I've come out with an album. I'm going to go
Mhm.
on tour to promote it, or you
Yeah.
know,
Well, I put my single out first, Name on it, which actually was top. I think it went to 15 or 10 on the the R&B charts, the adult contemporary charts. So I was like, yes. I put that out. And then after that, I just dropped the album. I says, just let it go. Go with God. And then 2020 happened. That was April 2019. I just wanted, because I'm by myself and this is a whole new thing for me, but I just wanted to live with the music before I did visuals or anything like that to it. I wanted to live with it. I wanted to get the feedback, which was awesome. I'm so thankful for, all the fans and people who've reached out to me, and that's the only way you just have to release. You just got to let it go. And then 2020 hit, and it was just like, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
I didn't feel any need to do music. Like, so many people were suffering. So much was going on that, I didn't even have it in me to write anything. It was just like, it was just a sad time.
Yeah.
And I felt like we were all in it together. So we were just riding the waves to get to shore. And finally, I hope we're close to shore now.
Yeah.
With so many friends, family members lost. And, I'm thinking this year, I'm hoping maybe in the next month or two, because I have stuff that I've already done and worked on, ready to go. But it has to be when I feel it. I'm real big on that. And I'll put out Long Way Home Part 2 and keep going.
So is the idea then to you say you haven't done visuals, like you haven't done a video,
Right.
but okay, but
So I'll add on to Long Way Home. It's part 1, and then I can start just doing visuals for all of the songs that I initially wanted to do visuals for, but God has different plans. Yeah.
and do you are you in a position where you wouldn't mind being back on the road and touring, or do you think have you you've done it all from a long time ago?
Yeah. I don't, not to that extent.
Yeah,
Now you're more in control of, your tour schedule. So absolutely, that would be, and you can do it in spurts. It's not something that you need to be out there sweating and, and 6 months away from your family and friends.
yeah.
So absolutely. I would love to tour.
I know that there's loads of these of 90s revival tour. Would you
Mm-hmm.
go on it and
Mm-hmm.
sing both your new stuff and
I
old
have.
Changing Faces stuff?
Yeah, I have. I've done it. Yeah, I've done that in but before everything shut down in 2019. That's my show, and I already have a show booked coming up in May with the same thing. I think it's me, Rome. Is it Rome? And oh gosh, I forget who the next person is. It's a 90s show, so it's gonna be coming up in Kansas.
Okay. Did they introduce you
Yes.
as Cassandra Lucas
Cassandra,
from Change?
Changing Faces. Yeah, Cassandra
Okay.
Changing Faces. Yeah.
And then you have backup singers to help with the edits part.
Absolutely. Yes, we do it. Yes.
Okay. But
Hmm.
ideally, we're going to start to see more so from yourself, your own new material as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
No, it will be. I mean, it's been fascinating to hear your story. I definitely do hope that once your new album is about to drop out, or if you have any visuals that we at least we can use, we as we can put it out interviews, we can send it, let the fans connect the dots and
Okay.
see, okay, this is what Cassandra's up to now and stuff. Um, but before I end my interviews, I always ask all my guests that if you were
Hmm.
stuck in an elevator and they said it'll be about 2 or 3 hours, but we can put a movie on for you to watch, what would you request to watch?
Mm. Well, because I'm like, it could be, you know what is crazy? I would probably either put Coming to America or Mrs. Doubtfire. I'm the last person. Like, I love Mrs. Doubtfire and I love Coming to America. So it would be one of the two.
What are the two? Okay.
Yes, because I'm in
Okay.
an elevator. I have to
Yeah.
laugh.
You have to.
I have to. I can't.
But what about if they're about to put out the movie and they said, okay, we'll pull a song for you before the movie starts? What song do you request?
Mm, good question. Wow, that's a hard one. Oh, shucks. What song? I have so many songs. It's hard to pick one. So a song before the movie starts. You got me here. Let me see. Because I'm like, am I gonna dance? You know what I mean? Do I want to dance or do I want to sing?
Do you ever have
Oh,
that your one song that like,
okay.
no matter what happens, this is my song.
Maybe
This is
one, maybe Michael Jackson. Maybe
which
want to be
one?
starting something.
Okay. Okay. My favorite all time song is "Lady in
Mhm.
Your Life," "Lady in My Life" by
Oh,
Michael
see, but
Jackson.
that's singing. So I'm saying, do I want to dance or do I
Uh,
want to sing? See, with Lady in My Life, I have to sit on the elevator floor and just go to town. You know what I
See, when I asked Donnell, he
mean?
he
Uh-huh.
was the he said "Lady in My Life" as well, and
Oh, nice.
I said, well, that's my all time favorite. And I said, would you ever consider how come in the 90s everyone did a Stevie Wonder remake, but no one
Hmm.
did a Michael? And he says he actually did "Loving You" based on he listened to it and wrote his own version of it. It sounded
Got
very much like it,
it.
and so yeah, which was amazing. But yeah,
And
that's
here I am with a Michael song too, right? Oh
yeah,
man.
I think he was
Hmm.
supposed to come to London to do his This Is It tour. I
Uh-huh.
bought tickets with my wife, my brother, and we're like, we
Uh-huh.
couldn't wait. Unfortunately, he passed 2 months before the show, so
Hmm.
I've never seen him live, and the more you reflect back and realize how I think people forget, if you're selling 100 million, 50 million, when people go platinum and diamond, everyone's jumping up. He was
Yes,
If he didn't sell 50 million, there was a problem, and but
there was a problem.
he was just, we talk about R. Kelly and Babyface and all
Yeah,
this stuff, but he was,
he
you know,
was he was just the stars, the moon, the sun.
yeah,
He
yeah,
was it. He was
yeah,
it. And I was blessed to get to see him twice, so perform. But I'm sad that you didn't get to see him perform. And even in his latter years, it's still unreal, like what he could do, like to a stage. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
It's just wow. So yeah, well, we're blessed to have had them in our
yeah,
lifetime and
yeah. No, definitely.
and still have the music to go back to. So that's what we have to take and put it on, and that would be just something, anything Michael Jackson in the
Yeah,
elevator.
definitely. Who are you listening to now? People may ask.
Wow. I'm listening to Jasmine Sullivan. Love her. Uh, I just heard this new Bruno Mars and
Oh yeah, with
Anderson
Park Anderson.
Anderson
Yeah,
Pack.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah,
that's hot. I like Daniel Caesar. I love her. Um, Robin Thicke just came out with something new. I was
yeah,
listening to
yeah.
him. I listen to so many people, and then my gospel. I listen to everybody. But yes, right now, that's what I'm just thinking about yesterday, what I was listening to in the car. I probably gave you the rundown. Oh, Frank Ocean. Frank Ocean was on our playlist. So it's Frank Ocean. Who's the best? Yeah, that was yesterday. I may be missing somebody, but yeah.
Would you collaborate with any? Because I know you
Oh.
sang back with Donnell, but
Hmm.
but I think I think what is hard to get yourself out there now as an independent
Hmm.
is you just getting your name, but a lot of collaborative sort of things tend to help. Like if you did a
Yes.
did a duet with Horace Brown or something,
Yes.
something. It's just like,
Right.
oh, okay,
Right.
wow,
Right.
this is
Right.
it. Yeah. Do you ever consider? I mean, looking.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it would have to be something that happens organically. I don't, you don't want to force it because again, people could tell that you just jumped on something just because. So absolutely, I'm all for collaborations, and if something comes about, I have no issues with that. But it just has to be organic. Like we both have to feel that this is something that we want to do. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I do have to thank you. You've given us a
Mhm.
lot of time, and I yeah,
Yeah, I was
hopefully
gonna say, I said, how long are your normal interviews? Were they this long? Or?
yeah, yeah, because you know what, it's about your story. So as I said, we
Nice.
started from your beginning and listened to your journey, and it wasn't if I just came up and says, okay, changing faces, because that's
Yes.
we've that's not you. That was a
Right.
part of you, but
That was a
we've heard
part.
your story, your journey, we heard about the industry because we're looking in, and we're where you are now. So that's generally the whole thing. But as I said,
Yes.
on average, it is about 90 minutes with most
Oh,
my guests
wow.
because
Well,
they
I'm
just
getting ready to, well, I'm getting ready to start a podcast myself. So,
okay.
but what I do want to do is like you just feel it out, no set time so that people don't feel like, and if something's going great,
Yeah.
you just go with it. So I had a good time.
Yeah, well, see, and that's why I don't go live because a lot of everyone was going Instagram live, and what happens is
Yes.
people are commenting and you're not focused, and I but
Hmm.
I wanted to get when I'm not doing this, I'm a therapist in children's mental health.
Oh, wow.
So
Great. And children's mental health?
yeah, here in the
Oh,
UK,
that's
yeah.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah,
good for you.
it's and so, but all this stuff is about listening to a story, and so it's very intriguing to hear the story, and to and not to miss out stuff because you might think, oh, that was insignificant, but wow, that's a
Well,
big thing.
that's why you're good because you're a therapist, so you're used to listening. So that's
Yeah,
good. And and allowing people to speak their truth. That's great.
but
Perfect.
you've got it's really been great to hear. I mean, you went to the fame, goodness. I wish I was a kid, Leroy, Debbie Allen, goodness, and you went to school. To
Yeah.
me, I mean, you said
Yes.
Jennifer Anderson and stuff. I mean,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
that in
Hmm.
itself is amazing. And the fact, as I
Yes.
said, is not everyone who sings or went to your school made it out.
That's
So
true.
what made it different for you guys? Because
That's
and
true.
chance happened, but you got to write. So it's been great to hear your story. And I guess yes, whenever you're doing anything, it's just being curious about the other person,
Right.
and what my guests keep my audience tell me is that they enjoy the fact that I let the guests speak and I'm not trying to jump
Yes.
in and stuff.
Yes, you're great. It was perfect. And that makes sense because sometimes when you're interviewing, you can already see the interviewer thinking about that next question instead of tapping into what you're saying. So you got
That's why I didn't
it.
want to get questions from my
Yeah,
audience because I would have had to say, okay, so when did you do this and that? So I said,
right.
I'm just gonna just go for the flow. So I really appreciate the fact that you took time because if I'd noticed that you're like, okay, what time is it? Then I would have had to cut it. But
Right.
you,
No, we got to get the best interview, right? So we're
yeah,
good to go.
and I appreciate it. But as I said, whenever you're ready with the new stuff, I know that your managers, they can just
Mhm.
let me know.
Okay.
We've got a large following, and hopefully they'll be really keen to find out where they can get your music and stuff. So I'll
Okay.
if you can send me where people can download your stuff and what's out there. So at least when I'm putting the interviews, I put it in the description
Oh,
so
not
people,
a problem.
yeah,
Not a
so
problem.
people,
So I will have Veronica send you everything. And I guess you guys have already been speaking. So
yeah,
I will definitely.
so they
And when
can,
is
yeah.
this interview going to air?
April, first week in April, because what
First
what
week in
I
April. Okay.
yeah, what was happening was
Mhm.
that I over the past 4 weeks, I interviewed Tammy Lucas, who was very instrumental
Oh,
with Teddy
yes.
Riley. So she's
Yes, with Teddy Riley.
yeah, her
Hmm.
interviews going out. In fact, every night at this time every night for five because it's I think I interviewed her for an hour and a half, and this is her one
Wow.
of her one of her first interviews in 10 or 20 years. So many people hadn't even seen her
Wow.
before.
See,
Then I had
nice.
Donnell, I had G Wiz from Heavy D and the Boys, and I had what was happening was an interview each week, and I think that my people couldn't catch up, so I'm having to give 2 weeks off. Um,
Nice. And then
yeah,
come back.
and come
Okay,
back.
great.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're going to send you all the links
yeah,
that
yeah,
you need to put up. And I've had a great time chatting with you.
yeah. I appreciate it, Cassandra, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. And when it goes out, I'll let Veronica know so that you can be able to see it on live. It'll probably take me a good 2 weeks actually to condense it into 5 segments so they'll go out. Yeah,
Perfect. Don't take your time. Take your time.
yeah.
It was a joy.
Oh, I appreciate it. All right.
Okay.
Have a
All
good
right.
evening.
You too. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I begin to